Have you ever jumped out of bed of a morning and you are absolutely as steady as a rock on your feet? And then the very next morning, you get out of bed and you feel like a baby giraffe where you are all over the place? I know how this feels because this is me, and it is a question that I get constantly. And that is, why is my balance brilliant one day and absolutely bonkers the next? So, this is a topic that is really, really close to my heart because I can be doing training sessions with my clients and absolutely as steady as a rock on my feet in one moment. And then the very next moment, I'm all over the place trying to catch myself. And I see it constantly with my clients. And hence the reason I get the question. And so, look, being steady on our feet is not just about preventing falls, it is about feeling confident in our body that we're able to do all of the things that we love and enjoy in life. I have so often heard from clients where what's happened is they were out on a hike, they've had a fall, they've hurt themselves, and then it's taken them 18 months to feel like they are able to do it again. And it's not just about the physical aspect, it was about that they feel like they're going to fall again. And so they have this fear. And so it's really, really important that we feel not only confident in our body, but we know that our body is stable so that we are able to actually do the things we want to do, right? Are you with me on that? Okay. So the first thing that I want to talk about is that for us ladies who are over the age of 55, we're postmenopausal. Well, most of us are anyway. And so we think that that roller coaster of a ride that we've been on with our hormones during menopause is over and done with. But estrogen just doesn't impact our reproductive health. But what it also does is it influences our proprioception. So that is our ability to know where our body is without looking. So it can even impact like our inner ear function. And that is super, super important to our balance and how we feel. So I was talking to my doctor the other day when I was in there for a checkup, and she's a women's health specialist. And so she was explaining to me that these fluctuating hormone levels can make our balance feel inconsistent, even when we are doing everything else right. And so the good thing is that if we know that, then what we can do is we can give ourselves a little bit of compassion, I suppose, for when we have those wobbly days. We shouldn't just beat ourselves up and go like, what's wrong with you today? There could be something else that's actually causing it, right? So our hormones could be one of those factors. But there are also other daily factors that could impact our balance. So do you want to hear about those? Of course you do. That's why you're listening, right? Now, as I take a swig on my bottle, one of the things that can impact our balance is our fluid fluctuations. Okay. So even like mild dehydration, it can make you dizzy. And some days we can retain more fluid than others. So, and what I notice about my balance is that when I'm not properly hydrated, that I do feel a little unsteady on my feet. So, what I can normally do, I'm going, oh, hang on a minute, I can do it, but it just doesn't feel quite right. So, and I know I bang on about water, drinking your water, having enough fluid in your body, like all the time. Look, it's super, super important when we're postmenopause because our body is just not the same when it comes to fluid. And so we want to be able to do the absolute best that we possibly can, right? And so let's drink up and make sure that we have our water. One of my favorite things to do is to add some electrolytes as well too, because I think that's super important. But that's for another day. Today, let's talk about some other factors that can impact it, like medication timing as well. Did you ever think about that? So like your blood pressure tablets or, any type of sleep aids or, allergy medications, they can impact balance. So depending on when you take them, they might impact, different parts of the day for you. And so you might have these random bursts of unsteadiness, as an example. And I've noticed that with, like, for example, allergy medication. I've even had ladies tell me that with their blood pressure medication, that once they started exercising, they noticed there was a difference in, they were getting a little dizzy and they had to go and have their blood pressure medication rechecked and adjusted. So just think about, am I taking any medication and might that be impacting my balance? And maybe have a chat to your doctor about it. Okay, here's the next one that I bang on about all the time, and that is your sleep quality. So last night's tossing and turning doesn't just make you grumpy. Well, at least it makes me grumpy. It can impact your coordination as well too. Our brain needs that time. It needs that sleep to restore and to make sure that all our systems are running smoothly. So if we're not getting good quality sleep, it can definitely impact not just our mood, but our balance as well too, and our coordination. Blood pressure variations, which I've already alluded to, that's normal throughout the day, right? But that sudden drop that can happen sometimes when we go to step up can definitely cause us a little bit of a laugh, and we might feel that off guard with it as well. And so what we want to think about is, if we do have some concerns with our blood pressure, that when we go to get up, we're taking it nice and slow. So we're not just rushing up so that we're not getting any of those dips. Last but not least is ear infections, like wax in our ears. Did you ever think about that one? Wax in our ears, or, when we have those little inner ear crystals that want to throw parties in our ears. Those types of things can actually cause some temporary balance issues as well too. And so we just want to be aware of all of these things that we might be doing on a daily basis that could be impacting us as well too. And not just us, but our balance, right? Let's move on to the next part of it. And that is yesterday's actions can impact what's going on with our balance today. So you might be thinking, how the heck does that happen? Okay, so here's some examples. You've overdone it in the garden on the weekend. You've been up and down, pottering around, doing your little plants and tending to your veggie garden. And then what happens is a day or two later, you're all over the place with your balance. And so that getting up and down and doing that gardening, that may have altered your movement patterns. And so you might have some achy hip flexors, or you might have some tight lower back. And that, all of those things can mean that our body distributes the weight, or how it uses our body, our movement patterns, in different ways when we're walking and when we're standing, and we might not feel as stable. So think about, if you are feeling unsteady one day, have I been out in the garden, or have I done some strenuous work that I don't normally do? And maybe you're just feeling a little tight in your body in different places, or you've got those aches and pains. And so maybe what you need to do is think about doing some stretching or some mobility work to help you out. And you might find that your balance is back to where it was. Now, I was talking to one of our clients the other day, and she was talking to me about her noticing that balance was a little bit off track, right? One day. And she said it was always on Tuesdays. And she was someone who kept a journal. I said, what do you do? Is there anything that you do on a Monday? And so she went back and she went, no, I don't even have to really look in that journal because I've taken up line dancing and I go to line dancing on a Monday night. And so that extra little bit of strenuous effort, that being on her feet a lot longer, that extra activity, it created this pattern for her. Or what she noticed is she had this pattern of her balance feeling a little off. And so, this is where we need to pay more attention to our bodies, right? And do what we need to do to allow our bodies to recover and not put the pressure on them to go, oh, hang on a minute, there's something wrong with me because my balance is off. It could just be that we need that simple little stretch or mobility work, or that little bit of extra time to recover from that activity that we were just doing. Okay, are you ready? Let's talk about some practical solutions. And I'm going to start with it. And that is that focused balance training makes a huge, huge difference. So you want different types of balance training that is going to challenge your stability system and impact and build those neural pathways. So something as simple, well, it may not be simple, but something as what I would class as crucial, standing on one leg, is practicing balance training. So standing on one leg, and this is a no-brainer, I have all of my clients do it whilst you're brushing your teeth. Everybody brushes their teeth in the morning. So do your right leg one day, do your left leg the other day. And if you really want to up the ante, swap your arms as well too, your hands when you brush your teeth, and try a little bit of coordination as well with that. That's always a little bit of fun as well too. So standing on one leg. Now, you might be able to do it whilst you're standing in a queue at the grocery store. There's lots of different places that you could take advantage of standing on one leg. Notice the difference between your right and your left. Notice, do I need to do more work on my left, or do I need to do more work on my right? Because these muscle imbalances can happen in our body as well too. So which means, and we are like left or right dominant, so we're going to be better on one side than the other. So first and foremost, think about some focused balance training. Secondly, we want to focus on some resistance training. It is not just about young people lifting weights. It is really, really important as we're aging. We want to focus on our legs, we want to focus on our core. We also, with our resistance training, we want to focus on power, because we want to be able to catch ourselves moving quickly, so that if you think about a fall, it generally happens suddenly. So it is that power with that strength that we need to be able to catch our bodies and stop them from falling, right? So look, it can be simple things. It can be focusing on, for example, leg strength and doing squats or even deadlifts. But we want to also focus on that power with our legs. So we might do some quick sit to stands if we're sitting in a chair. Or we might do some quick step ups if you've got steppers in your house, or you happen to have, a stepper that's hanging around in the cupboard with lots of things on top of it. Go pull it out and start doing some step ups. One of the things that I often talk about is uneven surfaces. Stop walking on the pathways when you're out and about. Get in the grass, walk on the uneven surfaces, because you're going to be training yourself to have better balance if you are walking on those uneven surfaces as well too. So resistance training, power training, focus balance training. One of my favorites is hopping. Yeah, yes, I did say hopping on one leg. Now, this is a fun activity that you can do. It's something that I had some of my clients who have got grandkids staying with them, or even got kids still at home, and they're that little bit younger. So you all stand on one leg in a circle. You get a washer out of the cupboard, right? A face cloth, you might know it as well too. And so what you're doing is you throw that to one another, but you're not just, you're throwing it maybe at waist height, and then at face height, and then over the head. And so you might find that you have to hop, you have to move to be able to catch that face cloth or that washer as you're standing on one leg. So you get that little hopping movement happening as well too. Heaps and heaps of fun. So try some hopping exercises. Now, if you feel unsteady on your feet, you might need to have, a bench near you, or you might need to have a steady chair there. So something that's going to be able to support you as well. And the first thing is that you might be just coming up onto your toes and doing a little pop up, rather than actually doing that full hop movement. So it is all about starting where you're at, right? All right. Where to next? My favorite tip of all times: playgrounds, the parks. When you are out with your grandkiddos or your kiddos, there are so many things that you can do, so many activities that you can be involved with those children, that will help you with your balance. So balance beams, stepping stones, even on a swing. Try the old swing and then jumping off the swing. That's one of my favorite things to do. And if you have a little fall, practice your rolling with it as well too. But don't go out and do that until you've been doing a little bit of strength work and building up yourself. And, particularly make sure that you've got nice strong bones as well too. Hopping, jumping, great for bones as well. And of course, we want to avoid that osteoporosis, don't we, as well? So the wonderful thing about doing this with your grandkiddos or your kiddos is that you are modeling active aging. And so you are showing them that just because you're aging, challenging yourself and staying active is not something for just the young people. You are showing them that it is okay to do it as you are getting older. And the wonderful thing is that this is a great lesson to learn when you are younger, right? So I hope you think about those tips. And maybe you start doing those into your daily routine. All right. So I like to finish up with a move moment. And these are moments where I suggest some way of moving, some way of adding an extra type of move moment into your daily life. And you've got to guess what this one is. It is standing on one leg for just 10 seconds. So I've already mentioned that you could do this whilst you're brushing your teeth. You could also do it whilst you're waiting for the kettle to boil. You could also do it whilst you're hanging out the washing. There are so many ways to practice standing on one leg. And when you get really good at it, you could actually try and get up out of the chair standing on one leg as well too. So that's a little bit of fun. So for now, wherever you're at, start. Don't put the pressure on yourself. If you can only stand on your leg, one leg for a couple of seconds, 2, 3 seconds, that's okay. Just track it and do it more regularly, and then see where you're up to as well too. So what we talked about today is why our balance can be absolutely brilliant one day and totally bonkers the next, right? And so we've looked at things like hormonal influences, these daily factors, and how activities that we may have done yesterday or the day before can impact our balance a couple of days later as well too. And so what we want to do is we want to add these move moments into our daily life where we're practicing our balance. First and foremost, I think it is so, so important because it not only helps us prevent those falls, but what it's also going to do is help us be able to do the things that are so important to us in life. And it gives us the confidence to challenge ourselves to be able to go and do those things in life. I know that the other day I was talking to my young nieces and we were talking about skiing, and one of them went, "Oh, no, 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 no." Already she's hesitant about how her balance is, and that fear of falling is there, and she's only in her 20s. And so we want to, I said to her, "Look, you're able to do this. Have a look at how good you are standing on one foot." We're standing there as we're talking, chatting and standing on one leg. And I said, the first and foremost, if you're going to go and do that, go and have lessons. You learn the right way to do it, and then what happens is you practice it and you get better at it. And what will happen is you'll either know whether you love it or you hate it, and because there will be no in between with it. And I said, you're so young to shut it down. Why not experience a little bit more of life now? Because you never know what you might discover. And I know for me personally, with skiing, I only took that up in my 40s. And I was a little bit the same. It's like, oh, I'm not sure about that thing, but I love it. I absolutely love it. For me, it makes me feel like I'm a child again. I feel the wind in my hair. I have a smile just as big as, and it just makes me feel amazing. That's all I can say about it. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I will be back next week and we'll be talking about more to do with living actively and with confidence. See you soon. Bye for now.